Thank you for your patience. We will now be moving on with the conference. We are now going to be delivering the second panel named Media and Information Literacy on the Ground, Implementing Approaches, Strategies, and Action Plans. We will be having a great number of panelists who will offer us insight in their experiences, in the projects, initiatives they've implemented, all with a common goal to recognize MIL as a public good. Our panelists today will be Ms. Biljana Petkovska, who is the director of the Macedonian Institute for Media, Mr. Astrit Dautaj from the Agency for Quality Assurance in Pre-University Education, Ms. Anida Sokol, who is a researcher at the Mediacentar Sarajevo, Ms. Božana Jelušić, who is a literature and media literacy professor in Montenegro, and Ms. Amina Abdullahović, who is an expert associate advisor and librarian. As you can basically get an insight from the names and the titles I've just told you, we will be kind of continuing with the flow of the information that we got and discussed during the first panel. Once again, I encourage you all to take participation in the capacities that Zoom offers us, and that's in a way to write your comments, questions, or any interventions you might have during our panel, questions for panelists, or any kind of remarks you might have. So use the chat, use the Q&A button, and of course use the interpretation button if you need translation during the panel. Now I would like to begin with a question for Anida Sokol, who is today here with us in the UN building. And could you, for beginning, please, Anida, summarize how have you been working on media and information literacy?
First of all, thank you for the invitation, and I want to greet all the participants and listeners. So in Mediacentar Sarajevo, we have really numerous activities focused on media and information literacy. So we base basically our activities on three parts. One is research, then the second is education, and the third one is advocacy and raising awareness among the general public. So when it comes to research, so Mediacentar, I think, was the first civil society organization that published the first book on media literacy. So it was in 2005, where we gave a background. It was a collection of research studies about media information literacy from diverse authors, so focused on topics such as how to define media and information literacy, and then going to why it is important to introduce media information literacy into schools. Since then, we've really focused on diverse issues in our research, so from education to research on media consumption habits of young people and their reactions to problematic media content. In 2019, we published research on media information literacy and civil society, so what civil society organizations have been doing so far in terms of media and information literacy activities, and really numerous things have been done. However, the main conclusion was that these activities are time limited and usually urban centered and centered on youth, and we really need strategic approaches to media information literacy. We did also at the same year, during the same year, we published a study on media and information literacy of young people. So we wanted to see through focus groups how young people react to problematic media content. And one of the main conclusions was that, yes, they are aware of the problems. However, when it comes to identifying specific issues in problematic media content, their skills there are not that developed. On the other hand, and we base our educational activities on recommendations, so we do a lot of educational activities for journalists, for trainers of media information literacy, and then also for the general public. So one very popular, I would say, activity were youth camps on media information literacy, where young people not only learn about disinformation, verification of information, but they also learn how to be journalists, how to film, how to edit videos, how to write articles, because, and this is what experience has taught us, that some of the best ways how to teach young people about all the issues and problematic media content is really to show them what is the work of journalists, how to produce professional media content. And then we also try to implement introduce different approaches and also different target groups. So, for example, in recent year, we have been working with the concept of media information literacy for families and for children. So, recently we did, for example, an activity where we take museums as a place where young people and children really can learn about and develop their critical thinking, so they can ask questions. Why such an exhibition was placed? What is the meaning of the content? What is the meaning of the message? Some of the main questions when it comes to media information literacy. And finally, we do raising awareness and advocacy events, really trying to influence and show the importance of MIL to the public. So, for example, through our website, media.ba, we try to follow all the issues in the media sector, so to write articles and analysis about problematic media content, from disinformation to I don't know, propaganda, all the issues that are that we are facing currently in the media sector, and also always trying to emphasize what is professional media reporting, because I think that, you know, by focusing only on disinformation and showing people that, you know, we are the media content is packed with problematic media content, we really have the public that distrusts the media completely. So we really have always to go back to the basics, show what is professional media content, and show that there are also good examples when it comes to media reporting. So this is just in a nutshell. Yes, later.
Yes, you obviously do a great amount of work. What is especially interesting to me is that, like, when we speak of media and information literacy, we often focus the main part of our attention on youth. Yes. And kind of the older generations who are, I feel like, in a bigger lack of these skills and knowledges are often left behind, and yet they are such an important part of our society. So the project with the museums, including families, I think is a great way to incorporate other generations besides children and young people as well. You also worked on a project, Media for Citizens, Citizen for Media, and it has recently come to its end. What were the main experiences, and what were the main lessons that you've learned from this project?
Well, in that project, it was a regional project, and we looked at, the aim was to raise media information literacy skills and initiatives focused on civil society organizations. So it included countries Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, Montenegro, North Macedonia, and Albania. So one of the main conclusions were, on one hand, that school systems are very rigid when it comes to new trends. So it's very difficult in all of the countries of the region to introduce new approaches, new trends when it comes to teaching media information literacy. But on the other hand, what this project showed is that we have really a great number of enthusiasts, I would say, teachers, also policymakers, stakeholders, who are really keen and interested to introduce and advance media information literacy in their societies. It also shows that the power of civil society organizations. Within the project, numerous really activities have been held, and also we did training of civil society organization representatives on media and information literacy. It really shows that the civil sector is very powerful. It can do numerous activities, and it could show results, because the project at the end, it was a long project. It included different stakeholders, different organizations, and it really showed that we can as civil society organizations, we can do successful things. So on the one hand, the project had the component of advocacy. So within the project, coalitions, so MIL coalitions and media information coalitions were formed within the countries whose aims were to prepare recommendations and advance them, do advocacy among stakeholders. So some of the good results were, for example, in Montenegro, based on these recommendations, the Ministry of Education said that from 2022-23, they will introduce MIL elective subjects in primary schools. In Albania, for example, one of the recommendations was to provide media information literacy for non-journalism students, because what we saw that often the main problem is that we lack teachers who are skilled to teach media information. Literacy then, as I mentioned, there were numerous really training activities for civil society organization and grants given to civil society organizations to prepare initiatives on media information literacy. I think that there were like 600 civil society representatives took part in these different training courses, these different initiatives, and 40 civil society organizations were given grants, and they really had good proposals and good initiatives. For example, one civil society organization, Bosnia and Herzegovina Humanity in Action, through this grant they prepared young people prepared game boards, so that can be on media information literacy, that can be used as a resource in education. And this is also one of the main parts of that project, but also of our work, is to give resources, because as we heard often, we lack resources, especially resources in local languages. So these initiatives were very innovative, and we try to capacitate other civil society organizations to deal with media information literacy. And finally, there was maybe my favorite part of the project, is the awareness raising campaign. We're again going back to my first part, our first part of the discussion, where professional journalists in a very large, I would say, campaign that was distributed through different channels. We're saying about professional journalism, so about their profession, about the importance of following professional standards in journalism. So, and another thing is that we also try to bring journalists into schools, because again, this is a very good method of teaching young people about media information literacy and about the work of journalists, because they're very interested. So I think that also one of the main results was that there is really a huge interest also from young people, from diverse stakeholders, and from civil society organizations in these topics.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sokol. Now, these enthusiasts that you mentioned us, and the educational system that tends to be a bit rigid, I think these are the people who need to invest a lot of their energy together with different stakeholders to kind of soften up the educational system a bit and to provide an open door for MIL to enter the formal education. I would now like to ask a question for Mr. Astrit Dautaj, who is joining us through Zoom, who I already said is a representative of the Agency for Quality Assurance in Pre-University Education, speaking to us from Albania. Now, we have heard at the beginning of the conference some experiences from Albania when it comes to MIL, informal education. And my question for you would be, what is the approach you have taken to pilot MIL, informal education, in Albania? Could you give us a little update on where you stand today as regarding of this piloting?
Media and information, it's part of our curriculum of citizenship education. It's addressed under the perspectives of human rights and law. It's also part of the subject sociology, which is taught in high school, gymnasium. And let's say the perspective of media as a general information about media and all what is related to that. But when we speak about media and information literacy, it goes far beyond this issue. And this small framework that it's addressed in the curriculum and the teaching and learning process. So it's in the right time that now we are facing this huge challenge. Okay, now it's okay. I have to try to change the way, and I'm not sure whether no clear sound. What about now? Okay, let me try this way. Then I will keep this. It's better. Okay, let me try. Regarding what we have done in the framework of this project, piloting media and information literacy in our schools. First, as the minister said, we chose 20 pilot schools from basic education and from high school. And within these schools, we chose all the teachers, not only social studies teachers, but teachers of all subjects. And the second step is that we inform them or let them know about the curriculum developed by UNESCO. And after that, the modules developed in the framework of this project. In order to have their first feeling about the objectives of this, let's say, curricula for teacher training, and about the possibility to integrate it in the long term as part of the official or sustainable teacher training program for all teachers in Albania. And after that, after, let's say, having their opinion, not only of the teacher, but also the specialist, curriculum specialist of my institute, the Agency for Quality Assurance, the first idea was that the content was okay. It was needed. The objectives were all accepted. So nothing was, in a way, they didn't have any problems with the content of the whole curricula. It's writing in the right time, and it's part of what is needed today in our school system. It was made clear from the minister before. The second step was the modules. We translate the modules, and then we edit another module, hate speech, and then present it to the same group of pilot teachers. So these were, there were 3-4 meetings, having them the possibility to be familiar with all materials. And in the end, again, I will try another. Okay, I'm using the computer, and let me.
Adjust everything. It's recognized as a priority. Can you hear me? I have a question for Ms. Biljana Petkovska. Is she here with us at Zoom? Can you hear me, Ms. Petkovska? Yeah, I think you just need to unmute.
I'm not muted. Can you? Thank you very much. Do you hear me well now?
I cannot do that.
Okay, thank you. Greetings to all participants. It's a pleasure to be here on this panel. The state of play in North Macedonia currently is that unlike the fact that we used to be known as a country that produces a lot of fake news with international impact, as it was a couple of years ago and was associated with the presidential elections in the United States. I guess you all remember that. Now we are a place where, although there are a lot of fake news that are present, we have a lot of initiatives that are taking place across the country on various levels. still the most active player on the ground is the civil society. And there are a lot of activities that are taking place currently and in the last couple of years implemented by the civil society in cooperation with often with state institutions and with schools. When it comes to the presence of media literacy in the education, I can say that the MIL is there, although still not in a formal format, so to say. But that is about to happen very soon, and we will talk about that a bit later on. But I can say that currently the regulation provides that media literacy associated activities are part of a couple of subjects that are mandatory for basic and high school students on all levels, on all grades and levels. For example, subjects like native language, sociology, society, and civil society, they integrate content that is that belongs to what is called here media culture. So it's more on informative level, so to say, about various types of media and the content they provide. But I can say that thanks to the enthusiasm and the commitment of a relatively large group of professors from basic and high schools, we have an excellent examples to show of having media literacy being present in the schools, in the classrooms, with a lot of content, a lot of exercises, lecturings, networking nationally and internationally. And all of that is promising that slowly this topic is recognized among the, I would say, on more societal level. Lately, what is good is that the current government has publicly declared that they strongly support integration of media literacy in the formal education. And this has been highlighted in many official occasions on the very high ministerial level in the country. And as a result of that, we have recently started a big initiative for including media literacy in the formal education.
What will this project consist of? What will it draw any particular attention to?
Yes, the project is about youth, providing increased media literacy skills among youth. That is the first component where we will work with the higher education system on national level. The second one is about increased application of youth media literacy skills, but more on a non-formal level. And the third one is about implementing MIL on higher education. The project is called You Think. It will be implemented by the US-based organization AREX, with support and local implementation of 3 distinguished local partners in Macedonia. It will have a very strong local ownership throughout the whole process. And basically, what we want to do here is to adapt a program that is designed by IREX and already implemented in 17 countries across the globe. We will work, we will try to make this program being localized and completely adapted to the needs and priorities of the Macedonian media education system and the education system in general.
Where things stand at this point and what will be further on worked on in North Macedonia, and what you've said at the very end, taking local context into consideration, is extremely important in implementing different forms of MIL integration into different forms of education. Let's try to hear again from Mr. Astrit Dautaj. Let's see if you have kind of removed the potential technical problems you might had. And we face them all. Don't you worry about them. It always happens when you need your equipment the most. It kind of fails you. Let's see if we can be able to hear you now. Mr. Dautaj, can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Now, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, that's... MIL currently in Albania. Where do you stand at piloting of MIL in your schools?
Okay, hi again. We selected the pilot schools. We selected all teachers in the pilot schools. It's more than 120 teachers involved in the process. And also all the curriculum specialists of the Agency for Quality Assurance are involved. All subject curriculum specialists. At the first stage, I'm mentioning again, we checked, or let's say we had to have the opinion of teachers regarding the curriculum and the modules and how they fit to their needs, and also to the possibility of having them integrated in the teaching and learning process. Now we are in the phase of training teachers, all teachers of the schools. In the first, we introduced the whole modules. We decided what are the activities that best serve the purpose of the training to meet the objectives. Because in the modules, there's it's a long list of opportunities to develop, a lot of activities. So we chose what was best, or we thought that was best and doable in our system of education. And we finished the first round of training teachers with the module. Now we are in the phase of training them how to use the let's say what they have learned in the first training, how to use them in their learning process in three main elements. So to use media and information literacy as a source of information for let's say as a plus elements in terms of knowledge and in regarding textbooks as a source of information. But in order to do this, a lot of, let's say, skills are involved, because one of the weakest points in our education system is the ability of students and teachers, again, to go out and to research for information, and the skills related to this. The skills to identify sources, the skill to question authorities of different sources, the skills to analyze, let's say, everything that they have found. Information, it's not knowledge, so they have to find what best fit the curriculum requirements. So there is a long list of skills that have to do with the life skills, with that in general is missing in our everyday life in schools or in the teaching and learning process. Because normally we teach in the classroom, so this aspect of going out of the classroom and doing research, learning by research and by inquiry, this is a great opportunity for the teachers and students through this kind of education. And the second element is to use media and information literacy in a way to develop high order thinking skills. We know that when we develop the curricula, we freeze the reality. We enter our offices and based on our picture of the reality, we develop the curricula. But in the meantime, when we deliver the curricula after 6 months or 1 year, or we see that a lot of things have changed, because beyond this freezing of the reality, that we see that we miss the dynamism of real life. So from the very beginning, when we deliver the curricula, there is also the need to update the curricula, to update the textbook, which is not possible, and the minister just said it. So there is this need to bring the world to the classroom. This is not related only to to this situation, but it's always related to the education. We always criticize the fact that the textbooks are not, let's say, realistically representing the reality. Not everything that's happening there it's in the textbooks, and we also have this request from different organizations to put this to add subject, even to add subject, to add ideas in the curriculum. So the best way to do this is through teachers. As long as we cannot change the curriculum or the textbooks, teachers are the only agents in this. So that's why we need good teachers. We need prepared teachers. We need teachers that have the knowledge and skills to bring the outer world into the classroom, and to better serve meeting let's say the outcomes of the curricula or the objectives of the curricula. And this is how we can use media and information literacy. For instance, actually we are doing the training of teachers, and we give some examples of them. Let's say dealing with the vaccines. In biology, they learn how vaccines are made and things. But recently, we know that a lot of new things happened, a lot of new ways of dealing with vaccines. So this is a possibility to help students, let's say, make research in the right ways, using the right sources, to learn more about the new processes that are happening regarding the vaccine. Beyond that, in the second dimension, we help them, or we invite them to research and identify what are some of the controversies regarding the vaccines, for instance. So, and what are some of the interpretation regarding the vaccines and all this that's happening today. So they have a possibility to see different viewpoints, to see differences in the way people see the world, lot of interest. And so we help them in a way even to deal with controversial issues. But in order to do this, the teacher himself should be prepared to deal with this. And that's why in a way, the pedagogy and the techniques that are part of the curriculum of media and information literacy, it was welcomed by the teachers, because they feel more safe in the teaching and learning process when they are able to deal with all, even if they are not prepared or if they are not familiar with the topic. At least the pedagogy will use them to deal with them without being, let's say, at the risk in a way, in bragging, because these are some of the fears of teachers, and this is why sometimes they are so reluctant in dealing with these controversies in the teaching and learning process. So, and the other let's say element that teachers are trained, it's if there is a controversy, if the students and teachers are able to deal with that, in the end they have to take a stand. They have to take and defend an attitude using arguments, considering others' arguments. So this is a way of not only developing how to thinking skills, but students are invited also to creatively express themselves from media. So all these elements, using the media and information as a way of enriching the curricula and as a possibility to develop higher thinking skills, things, all this laid to them. And then as a way of expressing themselves, this should be part of the education system. And this is what we are trying to do in this phase of the piloting. How these three elements, main elements of media and information, let's say, literacy, are helpful in complementing what is, let's say, what is offered in school through the textbooks or through the teacher's experience, prior knowledge. It's a challenge. This is a challenge, but we will see how it will function, how effective it will be through the other process that is part of this project, monitoring and evaluating, measuring the effectiveness of this project. And this is where the main challenge is. In terms of evaluation, there is a model provided by UNESCO. Is a model when we distinguish three different levels of teacher performances in education. In our system, we have these three levels of performance for students. So we always ask the question, what the student should know and be able to do in order to get a grade 5 to 6, 7 to 8, or 9 to 10. So the idea is that when we grade students, we have to be fair. We have to use the same criteria for students' assessment evaluation. And normally, when we don't do this for teachers. In a project we had with Council of Europe, one of the main issue was how can we have the same criteria from the faculties of education who assess their teacher students, for the mentors who assess teacher students practicing their school, and how can we help teachers reflect where they stand or where they project themselves in the hierarchy of competencies, a three level of competencies. And there is a model offered by UNESCO here. It's a challenge. They're going to try this. First, the idea of having this, let's say, three level of performances and assessing teachers. First, not just to be on the safe side, we're going to use this, after the idea is accepted, as a tool for self-reflection of teachers. They have to assess themselves where they are. Let's say in this hierarchy of expectations, teacher expectation. How good they are in providing students the best in the teaching and learning process. So we can provide the same quality of teaching for all students. So this is also as a
be the most interrupted panelist of the whole conference.
Okay.
And excuse me for that, but I would ask you to kind of just wrap it up a bit so we can be in line with the time frames we have. We hear you anymore.
The idea is that we have to pilot this idea of evaluate or assessing teachers through different level of performances. This deserves to be a project on its own because it's a huge challenge, and but it is one of the big issues that always appears when we deal with assessment of evaluation of teachers. And when we try to develop teacher training programs, we have to know what is needed in the teaching, and we have to train teachers or have to develop programs that match the curriculum requirements of students and the whole objectives of not only of media and information literacy, but this is a model. It's a great model to be used for all subjects. It's a very ambitious one, but we are trying to deal with this during the piloting phase and see what would be the reaction of teachers in this framework. And this is what I see the model. If we manage to be successful in this and have this model accepted by all teachers, because we have planned to go nationally after the piloting to train all teacher trainers, and through them all teachers in all schools. So which is a long process. So in the end, we have all teachers at least having some training in the media and information literacy and make it part of compulsory education, as long as a curriculum reform will be in the future, and make it also part of the students', let's say, standard of learning. This is the long-term aim that we have in this, let's say, in Albania or as institute, in our draft strategy for the future in this regard.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dautaj. I'm glad that we managed to overcome the technical issues at the beginning. Thank you for sharing a detailed insight on what the model is like, the one which is being implemented in Albania, what are the challenges, who are the main stakeholders in this process, and I think you've offered all the necessary information for anyone who might have questions when it comes to their local models and how to behave in a certain situation when it comes to any of the roles inside of the process. So thank you very much. Now we will be switching, let's say traveling optimistically, traveling to Montenegro for the following couple of minutes, where we have Božana Jelušić, who is an MIL expert, joining us as a part of this panel as well. I'm going to check if you can hear me for beginning, Ms. Jelušić.
Hear me? Is it okay?
An insight on the state of MIL currently in Montenegro. Is it a priority? Is it in any way being treated in formal education?
A few words of your addressing, but I think I understand what you are asking me. At the moment in Montenegro, media literacy is a part of formal education. It started formally in 2009, and in the same time when UNESCO Paris agenda was adopted in 2007, we began to make a curricula for media literacy here in Montenegro. And I am the guilty person for that, since I realized that during the reform of education system that we need really something different. As a teacher and as a parent, I really realized that media literacy is of urgent need. And with help of Open Society Institute in that time, we adopted the subject. It passed psychopedagogical expertise, and then the Council for Common Education adopted it. And at the moment, we have media literacy as a compulsory elective subject in gymnasia, and from next school year, it will be taught in elementary schools. As for the vocational schools, we succeed only to be like regular subject lessons. It's something like sections, like special activities, but we hoped that even in vocational school, it will be regular subject. It is taught in block lessons, two lessons weekly, and it is completely oriented to students. I listened carefully, Mr. Dautaj, and it is something that we should know. Teacher is the heart of education and the heart of media literacy education. If you are not well informed and completely up to the time, and if you refuse to learn from students, somehow you will miss the point. So let the students to be better in some parts of expertise and try to give them good conceptual framework for deconstruction and production of media text. I know that maybe the optional way is for media literacy to be spread through all subjects. But I think that maybe some effects more are when you have it like a subject as well, because you could focus in special skills, and we could give the students better opportunity to tie all the knowledges, various knowledges. And that is the subject which influence very much to the next learning. I have 10 years experience of teaching media literacy, and all my students witnessed that they had great help during their next steps on the university, because they had chance to learn media literacy. Well, maybe I will let you to put a question more. I could talk and talk and talk. At the moment, we have a lot of NGO organizations all over Montenegro dealing with media literacy and offering various courses. After retirement from school, I'm an expert on the field of education. I have licensed courses in a Bureau for Education institutionally, and I cooperate with a lot of various NGO organizations. As a member of parliament, since I'm lobbying for the subjects since 2007, all the time, as a member of parliament, I put the question to the Ministry of Education, and so our idea led through Institute of Media, who is as well the part of the project Citizens for Media, Media for Citizens. We succeed like a national coalition for the elementary school to be part of formal education, where is media literacy present. And so I wrote a textbook for media literacy and for NGO CEDEM, and I adapted a lot of textbooks like IREX as well, textbook. And I would like to agree with Mr. Dautaj that it is very dangerous if you only give teachers a textbook and let them to freeze the ways of teaching and not to discover new challenges and new teaching materials. In the beginning of establishing media literacy in Montenegro, we hadn't textbook, but we prepared a lot of teaching materials on 2 CDs, and we addressed to the teachers, asking them to be updated all the time and to give students the most interesting and challenges teaching materials. So that courses, in my opinion and experience, are extremely vivid. And I witnessed during 10 years that my many students for various they choose other subjects, but they ask me to be present on that course. So the amphitheater was nearly full all the time.
One of the enthusiasts that Anida has talked about, someone who is using all of your different roles and capacities to advocate for the question of MIL being present in different forms of education. You told us at the very beginning that MIL is for a certain time now present in formal education in Montenegro. So I would like to hear a short comment from you on how is its presence addressing the challenges in disinformation, distrust in journalism, hate speech. Are the effects of it being present in the educational system visible on young people, on students? Are they equipped to understand when they are being on the other side of, and they're being basically faced with hate speech, when they're being faced with disinformation? Do you have an insight on this?
They are well equipped after attending the course of media literacy, but you know, when it is an elective subject, you haven't whole population who is taught in media literacy subject. Because of that, we have possibility for students to choose whether they would like in second or third grade of gymnasia and the 8th or 9th grade in elementary school to choose that subject. But in a certain period, school did a wrong thing, like they are not offering media literacy because of lack of lessons for employees. Like you have enough lessons in biology or somewhere in some other subject, and then you do not offer media literacy, and that's the problem. You can have extremely good institutional system, and nevertheless on the ground you can just fail because people do not understand that they should follow the best interests of students. That was the problem. At the moment, the awareness of the necessity of media literacy skills are very, very present in Montenegro. It is not only up to the schools and formal education, but as well for the NGO civic organization and our Ministry for Public Governance and well, a little less for education because they were frozen for some time after gymnasium curricula, and I was very mad because of that, since I think we could do much more till today. So we'll try via Institute, Media Institute, to offer various courses to institutions, because all institutions on the state level, ministries, police, various judges as well, they need media literacy because they deal with the problem which came from media and have somewhere the reason or because they happen. And finally, as for me, the experience with wars 19th in this region just focused me on media literacy, because media helped very much in that time for war to start everywhere. And I think today is not the same, but in some kind maybe worse, because we are in a digital era, and with certain echo chambers, with infodemia, and finally great danger of good spreadable media for democratic processes. It's even important to teach media literacy, not only because of everything, because of health, because of safety, because of democracy, and above all, because of student skills, which are necessity for the 21st century.
Identifying the problems and things that are not good
well, and then creating alternatives to make them more efficient for students and young people. And also thank you for sharing with us your motivation to give out that much energy into media and literacy, media information literacy. Thank you for sharing with us where does that come from and why do you see it as such an important topic. We will now be speaking with Amina Abdullahovic, who is an expert associate advisor and a librarian. Coming back to what we spoke as a part of our first panel, the role of librarians in kind of integrating MIL into formal education. And I just want, before beginning with my question, I just want to jump back to when I started going to school, how we at that age perceived librarians as these amazing people who knew everything about all of the books that you could find in a library. They knew which books stand, you know, and we always kind of admired librarians for having such great knowledge on so many things. And librarians were a serious authority for for you know us at that age in school. So I think it's a position in the educational system which is really important, and with time it kind of might have lost on its importance, and MIL might be the great way to give back this important role to librarians. So, Ms. Abdullahovic, speaking of the role of librarians in the implementation of MIL strategy in formal education, what is it? What is the role?
Everything and can answer all your questions. Today, you don't have this conception of librarian. Librarian is completely set aside in all these processes, and listening to all these experiences of other countries, I think that I believe even more in our strategy that we started in 2017, this the inclusion of media literacy in our educational system. Our minister also considered that it cannot be one subject because information literacy is a key competence in 20th century. So it encompasses all the segments of our life. Why are we librarians, especially, and as Professor Batwitz said, I'm one of those 1,300 of participants of all these workshops. Why did I recognize it as a good thing? Because this model exactly offers a new approach of this to media and information literacy. It is research or giving back to the library the focus in this process. So of this back room from school reading, now you actualize the work of the librarian, and the librarian becomes the central person together with the teachers, because we understood this paradigm of learning. It is a constructivist approach. Everybody is included, starting from teachers, but we are, as our colleague from Montenegro said, we are. It is very important that this process, both the students and the teachers, and as Professor Emir Vajzovic always say, and we agree that media literacy is not a goal for itself, it's a process, and we need to work on education, which is why it is very important. And these workshops are extremely important for the librarians, similar to experiences from Albania. These modules encompasses all these the different efforts by UNESCO, but it needs to be adapted to our situation, which our colleague from Albania was talking about. You need to see what you have in the field, but they saw potential in something that has already been incorporated in our system by standards, by UNESCO standards and directives. So these educational centers are the heart. The teachers of the teachers are the heart of the schools, but the librarians are for us the heart of school. And the librarians need to go through these skill building exercises, and they need to learn that it's a lifelong learning, because without formal education you never finish your education, which is why you as a child looking at librarians, you were looking at them like they were a series of information and a source of information to give you for use, changing the paradigm, because the students are not only the recipients of this knowledge, but they need to critically think about how to become responsible carriers, bearers of changes in society. That is very important to educate librarians. And this hybrid model, the module, the strategy that's being made in Sarajevo is very important. And I think that when of course, when the political prerequisites are met, we hope that it will go through and become a national program. Thank you. Hvala. Hvala.
See people who are part of the educational system, but not as directly as teachers and professors. And you said that librarians are people who are being educated during their whole working lifetime, and that's why that definitely affected the perception of young people, of children basically in schools, that we have about librarians. And my question for you is, could you briefly tell us about your experience in adopting this knowledge, knowledge about media and information literacy?
Of course, for us, it was there was a lot of new things. It was a novelty. So what we need to do, we had to learn how to learn in order to make this system of learning how to learn. It is very important with teacher and the students. The education has to be a very well established system. So these modules are not there to show to individuals how to become experts, but how to learn like experts. So it is very important to use all the potentials in schools. In teachers, of course, need to be educated, because when we were doing workshops with teachers and librarians, teachers were exhilarated, and they thought that the librarians would come into class and say, okay, I'm going to teach you today. So they need to exchange experience. What I saw that was positive in all this through these workshops and modules, they offer a wide range of tools, possibilities, how to approach the media information literacy to students. What is very important is that we will be able to talk about it, is acquiring skills. It is something that we work on all the time. We need to be educated all the time, and we are grateful for modules, for materials on the different websites, as the political science websites, etc. I have to say, I'm talking to you about the importance of media and information literacy, and wonderful people are sitting there and exchange experiences. And I hope sincerely that everything I do, as the minister said, it needs to bring us to responsibility, but it needs to be a system. It needs to be well put, because these people make huge efforts to learn a lot in order to be able to transfer this knowledge. And because everything we say about the rights that children have to learn, safe use of internet, they need a safe space where to learn. And learning is a very complex process that includes creation, gathering of critical
Thank you
thoughts,
very much, Ms. Abdullahovic, for sharing these inspiring ideas and experiences that you had being a part of the pilot project, where librarians also have an active role in transferring MIL to young people in schools. Also, thank you to all of our panelists, and I think this approach was great, where we got different info from different countries in the Southeast Europe who are in different phases of integrating MIL into formal education, where we have civil society organizations doing different projects, targeting different populations, and instead of focusing on the question whether somebody is correct and somebody is wrong, I think the good focus here would be how to take all of the things that function from all of the different approaches and implement them in all of the countries using the energy and the will of the enthusiasts who are a part of the process, but also, as we've heard at the very end of the panel, asking the responsibility from the system to integrate it and to make it available for all of the students, but also to make it a responsibility of all of the stakeholders in this process. We will end this panel.